He left me there like I was nothing, standing in that gas station parking lot at midnight with a dead phone and empty promises. My billionaire husband drove off without looking back. But when he saw me step out of that Rolls Royce 12 hours later, baby, his whole world shattered. Before we get into this story, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you're about to hear how I went from being abandoned to taking back everything that was mine. And trust me, you don't want to miss a single minute of this. Now, let me take you back to where it all fell apart. My name is Diana Thompson, and 6 years ago, I married a man who had everything. Trevor Hastings wasn't just rich, he was billionaire rich. The kind of man who owned tech companies, had senators on speed dial, and could buy a yacht the way regular people buy groceries. And me? I was a 28-year-old marketing consultant who thought she'd found her fairy tale. Young, in love, and stupid enough to sign a prenup without reading the fine print. For the first 2 years, everything was perfect. We traveled the world, stayed in hotels that cost more per night than most people's rent, and I thought I was living the dream. But somewhere between year 3 and year 6, I became an accessory, a beautiful black woman on his arm at galas and charity events, someone who looked good in photographs but whose opinions didn't matter behind closed doors. I started noticing how he'd take business calls during our dinners, how he'd check his phone while I was talking, how intimacy became scheduled like a board meeting. That weekend, our 6th anniversary, was supposed to fix things. Trevor had promised me a getaway to wine country, just the two of us, no phones, no business. But even on the drive up Friday evening, he was distracted. Saturday morning, he spent 4 hours on conference calls. Sunday brunch. His phone buzzed so many times I lost count. By Sunday evening, when we were driving back home, I was sitting in the passenger seat of his Mercedes feeling lonelier than I'd ever felt in my life. The highway was dark, nearly empty. It was about 11 at night when the car started making this horrible grinding noise. Trevor cursed under his breath and pulled off at the next exit, which led to one of those forgotten gas stations that looks like time stopped there in 1987. Flickering neon lights, cracked concrete, and one attendant visible through smudged windows. Trevor got out, popped the hood, and stared at the engine like it had personally offended him. He didn't know anything about cars. Why would he? He had people for that. I got out too, wrapping my arms around myself because the November air was cold and I'd only brought a light jacket. That's when my phone buzzed with a low battery warning. 5% left? We need to call for help, I said, trying to pull up our roadside assistance app. But out there, the signal was weak, pages loading slower than molasses. My phone died right in my hand. Just black screen, gone. Trevor slammed the hood down. I have a 7 a.m. meeting with investors from Singapore. I can't miss it, Diana. We're talking about a $100 million deal. I stared at him. Okay, so we call someone to tow the car. We can ride together back to the city. He looked at his watch, then at me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Cold calculation, like he was running numbers on whether I was worth the inconvenience. There's a tow truck that can be here in 45 minutes, he said, still looking at his phone, not at me. But I need to leave now if I'm going to make it back in time to prepare for this meeting. My heart started pounding. What are you saying? I'm saying you wait here for the tow truck. They'll take the car to the shop and you can catch an Uber home from there. It's simple. Simple. Like I was a package to be delivered, not his wife. Trevor, my phone is dead. It's almost midnight. This place is in the middle of nowhere. The attendant can let you charge your phone inside. You'll be fine. He was already walking back to the driver's side. This deal is important, Diana. You know how important this is. I knew I should have screamed at him, demanded he stay. But I just stood there, frozen, watching my husband, get into that Mercedes without a backward glance. The engine started, the headlights cut across my body, and then he drove away, leaving me standing in that parking lot like I was nothing. The taillights disappeared into the darkness, and I felt something break inside me that had nothing to do with the car. I turned toward the gas station, my eyes burning with tears I refused to let fall. The attendant, an older man with kind eyes, had been watching through the window. He opened the door before I even reached it. You all right, miss? He asked gently. My phone died. Can I charge it inside? He nodded and pointed to an outlet behind the counter. I plugged in my phone and sat on a plastic chair that had seen better days, trying to process what had just happened. My husband had left me. Actually left me stranded on the side of the road because a business meeting mattered more than I did. When my phone finally powered on, I called my best friend Gabrielle. Voicemail. I called my sister Nicole. Phone off. She was probably asleep. My hands were shaking when I dialed my mother's number. She lived 4 hours away, but she was the only person I had left to call. Baby? Her voice was alert immediately. Mothers always know. What's wrong? I told her everything, my voice cracking on every other word. There was a long silence on the other end, and when she spoke again, her voice was steel. Stay exactly where you are. Don't move. Someone's coming to get you. Mama, you don't have to drive all the way. I'm not driving. Just trust me. Stay inside that gas station and wait. She hung up before I could ask what she meant. I sat there, watching the clock on the wall tick past midnight, past 12:30, wondering what kind of mess my life had become. The attendant offered me coffee. I accepted it just to have something to hold. At 1:15 a.m., headlights swept across the gas station windows. But this wasn't my mother's sensible sedan. This was something else entirely. A black Rolls Royce, sleek and powerful, pulled up right in front of the door. I stood up, confused, as the driver's door opened and out stepped a man in an immaculate suit. Lawrence Cooper, my mother's attorney, the one who'd handled her estate planning last year. Mrs. Hastings, he said, his voice calm and professional. Your mother called me. I'm here to take you home. I don't understand. Why would she? Let's talk in the car, he said, opening the back door for me. It's warmer, and we have a lot to discuss. I slid into the back seat of that Rolls Royce, and the door closed behind me with the quietest, most expensive sound I'd ever heard. The leather was soft, the interior lit with ambient lighting that made everything feel like a dream. Lawrence got in the driver's seat and turned to face me. Your mother hired me 3 months ago, he said without preamble. She suspected your husband was having an affair. She asked me to investigate. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? She's known you've been unhappy. She sees things you try to hide, and she was right to be suspicious. He reached for a folder on the passenger seat and handed it to me. Trevor Hastings has been involved with a woman named Vanessa Cole for the past 14 months. She's a marketing executive at one of his subsidiary companies. He set her up in an apartment in the city. These are the photos, the financial records, everything. I opened the folder with trembling hands. There they were. Pictures of Trevor with a blonde woman, kissing her outside restaurants, entering her apartment building, his hand on her back, in that familiar way that used to be reserved for me. Bank statements showing payments to her landlord, jewelry purchases, vacation bookings for 2. He's been planning to divorce you, Lawrence continued, his voice gentle but firm. He wanted to wait until after his Singapore deal closed because the optics would be better. The prenup you signed is airtight, or it would be, except for one thing. I looked up from the photos, tears streaming down my face now. What thing? The infidelity clause, page 47, subsection 3. If either party commits adultery, the prenup is void. Everything becomes community property, which means you're entitled to half of everything he owns, plus damages for emotional distress. The information was too much, coming too fast. My mother knew. She'd been protecting me, preparing for this. And Trevor had been planning to discard me like I meant nothing. Like 6 years of my life were just a footnote in his success story. There's something else, Lawrence said. Tonight is the Children's Hospital Charity Gala. Trevor will be there. It's one of the biggest social events of the year, and he's a major donor. He'll expect you to be at home, devastated, stranded. But we have everything we need to move forward. The question is, are you ready to take back your power? I looked at the photos again, at the evidence of my husband's betrayal, at the proof that while I'd been trying to save our marriage, he'd been planning its end. Something shifted inside me. The hurt was still there, but underneath it, something else was rising. Anger, determination, strength I didn't know I had. What do you need me to do? Lawrence smiled. Let him think you're broken. Then show him exactly who you are. He drove me to the Grand Plaza Hotel where a suite was already waiting. My mother had thought of everything. There was a stylist there, a makeup artist, a rail of designer gowns. They transformed me. Deep emerald dress that hugged every curve, jewelry that caught the light like fire, hair and makeup that made me look like royalty. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the abandoned wife from the gas station. I saw a queen. The Rolls Royce pulled up to the gala at 8 p.m. The valet opened my door and I stepped out onto that red carpet like I owned it. Cameras flashed. I was still Trevor Hastings' wife, after all, still someone people recognized. I walked through those doors with my head high, Lawrence beside me carrying a briefcase that held my future. I saw Trevor across the room, champagne in hand, laughing with a group of business partners. He looked so comfortable, so confident. Then he saw me. The champagne glass nearly slipped from his hand. I watched the color drain from his face as he excused himself and started walking toward me. Diana, my God, how did you... I looked at him like he was a stranger, because in that moment, he was. You thought I'd still be at that gas station? Or did you think I'd be home crying? I was going to send a car for you. I just needed to handle... Don't. My voice was quiet but sharp enough to cut. Just don't. His business partners were watching now. People were starting to notice the tension. Trevor lowered his voice. Can we talk about this privately? No, I don't think we can. That's when I saw her. Vanessa Cole, walking through the entrance in a red dress, scanning the room. She didn't know I existed. Trevor had hidden me from his other life as carefully as he'd hidden her from me. I watched his face go from pale to gray as he realized what was about to happen. I walked straight toward her. Trevor grabbed my arm, but I shook him off. Every eye in that ballroom was on us now. Vanessa Cole, I said, extending my hand. I'm Diana Hastings, Trevor's wife. Her face went white. Trevor appeared at my elbow, looking like he might be sick. The room had gone completely silent. I turned to face all of them, the business elite, the society crowd, the people who'd watched me play the role of perfect wife for 6 years. I want to talk about loyalty, I said, my voice carrying across the ballroom. About what it means to honor the partnerships we make, the commitments we give. About respecting the people who stand beside us. Every word was for Trevor, and everyone knew it. I pulled the divorce papers from my clutch. Lawrence had prepared them that afternoon. I handed them to Trevor in front of everyone. You left me on the side of the road tonight because a business deal mattered more than I did, but it turns out I'm worth quite a bit too. See you in court. Lawrence stepped forward then, opening his briefcase. Mr. Hastings, these are copies of evidence documenting 14 months of infidelity. As per the prenup agreement, section 47, subsection 3, said agreement is now void. Mrs. Hastings is filing for divorce and claiming her legal share of all marital assets. Trevor's net worth was $2.3 billion. Half of that was mine. The room erupted in whispers. Vanessa turned and fled. Trevor stood there, papers in his hand, his perfect image shattered like glass. I walked out of that gala the same way I'd walked in, head high, unstoppable. But I left something behind, the version of myself that thought she needed Trevor Hastings to be complete. 3 months later, the court ruled in my favor. $1.15 billion, plus our family home, plus damages. Trevor's business partnership started falling apart. Turned out, people didn't like working with a man who'd abandoned his wife on the side of the road. Vanessa left him the moment his financial troubles started. Funny how that works. I started my own investment firm, focused on funding businesses owned by women of color. My mother lives in a beautiful house I bought her overlooking the ocean. My sister Nicole works with me now, and together we're building something that matters, something real. And that Rolls Royce? I bought it from Lawrence's firm. Every time I drive it, I remember the woman who stepped out of it at that gala. Powerful, unbreakable, worth everything. Last week, I stopped for gas. Same station, same attendant who'd let me charge my phone that night. I pulled up in my Rolls Royce, and as I was pumping gas, another car pulled in. A regular sedan, nothing fancy. Trevor stepped out. He looked older, tired. Our eyes met across the pumps. He walked over slowly. Diana, you look, you look amazing. Thank you. I've been wanting to call you, to apologize. What I did that night, leaving you there, it was unforgivable. I was so focused on things that didn't matter that I lost the only thing that did. He paused, hope flickering in his eyes. Is there any chance, any possibility that we could? No. One word. Simple. Final. I'm not the same woman you left here, Trevor. She's gone. And the woman I am now? She knows her worth. She knows she doesn't need a man who could drive away from her like she was nothing. I hope you find happiness. I really do. But you won't find it with me. I got back in my car, that beautiful Rolls Royce that represented everything I'd built from the ashes of my old life. In the rearview mirror, I saw him standing there, in the exact spot where he'd left me all those months ago. But I didn't look back for long. I had places to be, a business to run, a life to live, and it was all mine. And that's how the woman he left stranded became the woman he could never reach again. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the door opening to your real life. If this story touched you, showed you something about knowing your worth, then hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me what you would have done in my situation. Subscribe because I've got more stories about taking back your power. And remember, never let anyone leave you on the side of the road. You're the one driving your own life. I'll see you in the next one.